All right, everybody. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the channel that breaks down all the daily Bitcoin news from Twitter to the meme review to the software releases and those daily fails. We've got it all. Drop us a like and subscribe. Let's kick it off by checking out the numbers. Here we go.
Clock Moody Dashboard.
Okay, so we're looking at a block height of 654,013, price of 12,948. Chain rewrite days, 538, and the total lightning capacity, 1,042 Bitcoin.38.
Looking good. Looking good.
Not
I
bad.
like it's crazy
Not
that
bad. We're holding steady.
Hell yeah. We're consolidating at that 13K price. That's super bullish, Phil. So, Phil, it's time for
The daily fail. Brad Sherman, our buddy, Brad Sherman had to say,
we should be prohibiting cryptocurrencies. They disempower the federal government. And there is an anarchist strain, a libertarian strain that says every time the federal government is disempowered, Americans should be happier. It's funny. I've got Republican colleagues who want America to be strong and the U.S. government to be weak. And that doesn't actually work.
So are you saying you think cryptocurrency should be illegal?
Absolutely. I've advocated that for a long time.
okay, we're just going to stop it right there. You know, the link to this piece of garbage will be in the show notes. Okay, so Brad Sherman, definitely an enemy of Bitcoin. I'd even go further to say he's an enemy of like true human freedom, and maybe even has like contempt for humanity and doesn't like the human race. Okay, because really, like, what he's really going against is the freedom to transact, the freedom to communicate. Okay, like, to me, like, that's like enemies of Bitcoin. That's the way I view them. So, anyways. You know, I don't really have much of a lesson for this, except for the Brad Sherman, you know, that he's a piece of garbage. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but I completely, you're exactly right, Phil. So his main donors are credit card companies and banks, by the way, BTW.
Okay, and which is interesting, right? Because Visa owns 20% of Square, right?
I understand banks. I do understand banks.
Yeah,
I do understand the pushback from banks.
But really, like, you see his take, right, about the federal government. Like, what they don't understand is that, you know, without the money creation, right, without the ability, you know, to do this, they have to provide real world value. And that means that they would no longer get away with providing a poor service to their constituents.
I absolutely agree, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's, you know, Bitcoin just lifts the veil.
And I hate how he just said 100%. And I hate how he just says, like, you know, like, I hate the libertarian principle. Like, that's a bad thing. Like, that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. You know, what it does is that it seats him from his position of power, which he has way too much position of power, man. That's crazy that he's saying something so absurd. And he would kill so many jobs in the U.S. that the industry is providing nowadays.
He also said that, you know, that Bitcoin enables crime, but yet we just read that Goldman Sachs got busted for what?
Absolutely.
Like, what was it? Like 1.8, it was like 1.8 billion, or I don't even know what.
We are going to get in depth with that in the news, but yeah. And, you know, I would say my lesson for today, I think I have one, is, man, if the government says something is illegal, it's probably a good thing.
Probably not bad for you, but bad for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, it's time for
the daily meme review.
Dude, it was shown to us by your password here. Shout out to you. This is a homie in our Telegram group. You got to join. It's down in the link description. But yeah, join our Telegram group, give us memes to review, and Phil and I will review it. So yeah, so the first meme, this is a super original meme. It's Neo talking to Morpheus. It says, "What are you trying to tell me, that I could trade my Bitcoin for millions someday?" And then it's Morpheus saying, "No, Neo, I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't be able to." I love that meme because it perfectly describes exactly what Morpheus is. I mean, what the future of Bitcoin is going to. So this is so super funny. So Phil, do you want to give the backstory to who Keith McCullen is?
Okay, well, I think he runs the Hedge Eye Anyways, and he has this, they kind of have this investment thesis called Quad 4, that he's created that he pretends has relevance in, economics, and they trade based on this. And anyways, that's who Keith McCullough is. And Keith McCullough to Bitcoin, okay, he's been dumping on Bitcoin, and he's been dead wrong about Bitcoin for a really long time.
He has. I remember one of his tweets from like 2014 was like, yeah, I'm selling Bitcoin. Like, mind you, this guy lost thousands and thousands of %. So
he's been dead wrong for so long, and he's just apparently not giving up on that. And lately he's popped back in and pretended like that Quad 4 is relevant.
Yep, I totally agree. So, Phil, I'm going to go first. I'm going to give it a 9. Boop, boop, boop. What are you going to give it, Phil?
Okay, I'm going with 8.5.
Okay, cool. So I give it a 9 because that is literally my favorite meme, that Matrix meme, because it perfectly describes where the future of Bitcoin is. Because once you're a noob, like when you're getting into the space, you're like, I'm going to get into Bitcoin and I'm going to sell my Bitcoin when it hits 100,000. I'm going to sell it to dollars. No. The future step, right? The natural progression of things is that you're not going to sell anything. You're going to use your actual Bitcoin to buy things. You're not going to have to sell to dollars. So that's what Morpheus is talking about. I think it's a great meme. And just the key thing, man, everyone's been ragging him on Twitter. I think it's hilarious. And Phil, I have a weak spot for laughing. So that's why I gave it a 9. What about you, buddy?
It's okay. So I went with the 8.5 because although I totally love the Matrix memes, they are my favorite. The Keith McCullough reference is going to be definitely for Bitcoiners only, and maybe even specifically for Bitcoin Twitter only. So I think that's where it kind of loses some points.
I get you, because I respect that a lot, because you're all about like the fact that a meme has to be easy to understand to the masses because it's propaganda at the end of the day. I totally agree.
You got to think of like the lowest common denominator.
Exactly.
And in no way am I placing any importance on that value.
Very wise. Phil the wise. All right. So, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by Crypto Cloaks.
So, our news for today, Phil mentioned it earlier. We're going to rag on this so much, right? Because it's hypocritical. Okay, so Goldman Sachs charged in foreign bribery case agrees to pay over $2.9 billion. If you guys want to read the legalese, I will put the DOJ announcement down in the link description. But Phil, this is more of the same. No bankers went to jail in 2008. None. It was a total disaster. Again, a big bank, Goldman Sachs, nothing. You know what $2.9 billion is to them? That's nothing. The cost of doing business, man.
Nothing. They put that aside. They put that aside years ago for this garbage. This is nothing. And not only that, but supposedly Bitcoin enables this behavior. How did they do this without Bitcoin? How did they do this with the trusted system where everybody is there to make sure that this behavior can't happen? You see like the backwards, retarded, hypocritical garbage that they tell people, and then you wonder why people lose their minds, right? And like people just go crazy and give up. It's like, how could you not? Like, this is hypocritical, psychotic crap. You know?
And that type of behavior actually enables socialism, the idea of socialism, because you see that, and it's like capitalism sucks, and they have this misunderstanding of what capitalism is. That's not capitalism. That's crony capitalism. Well, it's totally skewed to one side. So
which is really like a micro form of socialism, because we all know that, you know what I mean? It's like once you bring in cronyism, it's like, okay, well, let's call it what it is. You know? Once it gets bigger, it just becomes socialism.
I absolutely agree. So yeah, man, it's rules for thee and not for me, you know, and it's a total scam, right? And this is why we're fighting every single day to bring you guys videos to just, you know, there's hope. There's another way. There's an alternative, right?
They think that by showing this to us, right? You got to remember, right? They try to create, because perception is reality. The perception is, look, they didn't get away with this. They had to pay a fine. And the average person who's a total fool looks at that number, $2.9 billion, that's got to hurt.
It's true. And then according to their market cap and their revenue,
their lives don't change.
It's cost of doing business. They read
changes.
it off every year. They're like, we're going to put this aside for the fines. You know, it's such BS. It's such 100%. BS.
It's part of the business plan, the fines.
Such BS. So look, another aspect of this, look, the FinCEN, right? AKA the U.S. government, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. This is absolutely crazy. So for anyone that doesn't understand the travel rule, I'm going to explain it real quick. But basically, an exchange, I'm going to share the screen in a little bit, but an exchange has to report basically any, like, the identity of where the funds are going to, right? So if you do KYC and you withdraw, right now the current law is $3,000. If you withdraw more than $3,000, they have to report to the FinCEN basically where that money's going, right? This money's going to this person, right? It doesn't really work with crypto, and Phil touched upon this yesterday. They're applying rules that are they're designed for the old financial system, and they're trying to apply those rules to Bitcoin. It doesn't really work because it's like Bitcoin isn't like a bank account that's tied to an identity. Bitcoin is just an address, right? That's it. And you have the associated private key. And if anyone else has that, you own that address as well, right? So Bitcoin doesn't really work as much on that. But to kind of pull back the article, right, now that you guys know what the travel rule is, man, this is crazy. This is totality. This is 1984, Phil. We would reduce this threshold from $3,000 to $250. So for any fund transfers or transmittals of funds. So basically, if you buy any coins on any exchange, right, for any exchange that wants to basically adhere to these rules, they would have to report to FinCEN, to the U.S. government, any transaction of $250. That is 1984 stuff. It is absolutely crazy. And I'll add to that, Phil. In 1971, when they added the Bank Secrecy Act, right? They implemented this rule where you could only any money over $10,000 needed to be reported, right, to the government, right, to prohibit money laundering. What people don't know is that in 1971, $10,000 was the equivalent to $50,000 today. 50,000. Right? Yeah. So they sneaked it on people because people wouldn't be okay with such a low amount initially. But over time, they got used to it. And the government says, look, it's the same amount. But they don't talk about inflation. Right? And now this is crazy. They're becoming even more strict. They're moving that law down to $250. That's absolutely absurd. It hurts exchanges because they have to do more paperwork. And it also hurts the privacy of Bitcoin buyers. So man, I think it's absolutely crazy, Phil.
But take a look. Depending on the angle that we're going to look at it, they're choking the gatekeepers in crypto, because the exchanges, right? Okay, so look, so we've got the on-ramps, right? Technically, those are a form of gatekeeping, right? The Cash Apps, the Geminis, Kraken, stuff like that. Like these are gatekeepers, but the exchanges is where a lot of the money is made. Okay. By doing this, they choke them. And by doing that, I think that this is a form of attack on the space. And, they're obviously trying to, rob value from it, because you make it more difficult to transact. People aren't going to want to deal with it. People are going to remove their funds,
Absolutely.
So whatever, it's a valiant effort. It's a valiant effort, and we give it to them. But keep in mind, the open source software isn't going to stop, and we're just going to find another way, like the path of least resistance. It's impossible to block all the time.
Exactly. Phil, this is a losing battle, because if they make it too strict, guess what? People are just going to stay in Bitcoin. That's it. Yeah. I stay in Bitcoin. I don't trade back and forth to dollars. Dollars is a pain in the ass. I'd rather just stay in Bitcoin. I know that I'm good. I don't have to adhere to anything. I'm in Bitcoin, so that's what these regulations really force, and as more and more people open their eyes, more and more people are just going to stay in Bitcoin, and it sucks for them. They brought it upon themselves, right?
100%.
So yeah, man, we got worked up today because it's just a lot of, man, A lot of regulation, man. This is the beginning of the battle, Phil.
This is what happens, right? The number goes up, and then everybody gets scared, and then right away they try to regulate. It's like in 2017, it was the same thing. It's like Bitcoin jumped, and like all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh my God, we got to put the regulations in. Got to stop this."
Mm-hmm. It's true, man. It's true. Phil, there was a pretty cool software release today. It's actually a website, but it was software. A software website, whatever you want to call it. Why don't you tell us about it?
Software releases. All right, let's see what we got today. All right, so it looks like, what is that? Did HODL have an upgrade? Is that what we're looking at? Yeah. So HODL, for the people who don't know what it is, it's a it's a true non-KYC P2P Bitcoin lending platform, and you could definitely check it out. We are, they do no KYC collateral lending, and they provide multi-sig escrow. You could check out their link in the show notes. I actually have an account with HODL. It's pretty cool, and if you're in the US, you can really just use a VPN and sign up to it.
That's awesome.
Or not.
Or not.
Or not.
We're not saying anything. You guys decide, right? Yeah. We're just. It was a suggestion. I don't know. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us for another week of Simply Bitcoin. It's actually our 65th episode today, so this wouldn't be possible without you guys. And if you guys really like us, and if you guys love us, subscribe. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday.